I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. I'd consider a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved, Madam Chair.
I'll second.
Thank you. Sean, we call the roll.
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Consider a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Sean?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Aaron's, are you speaking into your microphone?
I am now.
Thank you. Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Move on to our opportunity for public comment. Anyone want to come up and give you 5 minutes for items not on the agenda or pending before the board? If not, we'll go ahead and move on to the commissioner reports. I'd just like to take this time to recognize our neighbors to the south who incurred great loss over the weekend with the tornadoes. And I know there's some funds that are set up. One I know is called Team Kentucky, and if anybody has the ability to do so, I would encourage you to donate to those folks during this, during what they're going through. Any other commissioners have a report?
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
last week, the Executive Board of the County Association met in Pierre, and we reviewed the agenda for resolutions that have been submitted by county government. We also spent a lot of time talking about the three measures that are going in front of the state legislature, which would call for the county to be able to assess a sales tax, to assist them with building of buildings, jails, courthouses, and things like that. The one from Representative Otten was selected as the first choice, and which will be received and supported by the county association. There are two others that are similar, but it was decided that we would support one, and that was the one that was chosen. And so I just wanted to repeat on that. I mean, it's an uphill battle to begin with to try to get something through in this environment, but nonetheless, we did endorse that one. Thank you.
That was a sales tax.
That was sales tax, up to,
Approximately how much again?
it was up to 1 cent. You decide, you as a commissioner, decide how much of that 1 penny you want to assess for a sales tax. And it's then put a vote of your constituents to see whether they support that. And if we were given that ability to do that, and we took it to you, the voters, and you would endorse it, we would have a sunset on this thing. And the money that would be generated from that sales tax would be specifically directed towards, in this bill, building of a courthouse, courtrooms, and/or roads and bridges. So it's rather comprehensive. The thought is that while it may not get out of committee, but at least it explains to the legislators that county government really needs a little more revenue. And this is about the only thing you can do that is because you have outside people helping to pay rather than putting it on the back of the real estate and taxpayers of homes and things like that, so.
Commissioner Schmidt, did they, have they done an analysis yet or determine how much money Lincoln County or any county for that matter would generate if it were to pass into law?
I don't think, Commissioner Aaron's, that we had that number, to tell you the truth. We didn't. So,
Would it be just specifically for those three things, roads, bridges, and courthouses?
courthouses, yeah. I mean, those are the three items that are most prevalent on the agendas for most counties right now. So that was alleviated for that. Now, as to how the specifics of all this plays out if it should pass, there may be a lot of opportunities, Commissioner Gibbon, that you could expand this. But right now, those are the areas that it would be utilized for.
Thank you, Commissioner Schmidt. Anybody else have a report they'd like to make this morning? All right, if not, we'll move on to our regular business. First item is a second reading and public hearing.
This is the second reading and public hearing for an ordinance of Lincoln County, South Dakota titled, "An Ordinance to Establish Overweight, Oversized Permit Fees for Roads in Lincoln County, South Dakota under the jurisdiction of the Lincoln County Highway Superintendent."
Good morning, Terry.
Good morning. Again, going over, we're looking to establish fees for our oversized, overweight permits. I believe it's pretty straightforward. Do you have any other questions? You need me to explain any more on this?
Just for the public's benefit, if you would do that, that'd be great.
As far as what part of it?
Well,
I think the ordinance is pretty straightforward, and again, I think all the ordinance is doing is setting a fee, or giving us the ability to set fees for these permits. Again, we already have the permit process in place, been doing that for many years. Again, this is just gonna to give us the ability to charge to do those, so.
all right, thank you for that.
Terry, are those the same fees we've had in place in the past, or, I mean,
No, we have no fees right now.
but I mean, others, counties have, or, you know what I mean?
Yes,
Very
most of the other
similar.
larger counties have oversized, overweight permit fees.
And those rates are
Established already.
approximately what we
Correct,
would be
yes.
charging.
And again, the rates, which is part of the resolution, and again, we'd get into that. I mean, I can go through them here. Oversize is $50. Overweight, 80,000 to 100,000 is $125. Overweight, 100,001 to 149,999 is $175. And anything over 150,000 pounds is $225. Those are for a single trip. And again, you have a yearly one on those as well, or an annual permit. Oversized for an annual permit is $100. 80,000 to 100,000 is $300. 100,001 pound to 149,999 is $450. And overweight for 150,000 plus is $650,
Yep.
the annual fee.
And
So,
that in a roundabout way was my question, if it was comparable to other counties and what they were doing.
yes, these fall in line really close with what other counties are doing, so.
Terry?
Thank you.
So, kind of for the benefit of the public and for, those who this is going to affect, tell me the mechanics of how this works in terms of, and I'll use the best example that is probably the most prevalent, is a farmer with a semi-truck and/or somebody else with a semi-truck who, delivers goods on county roads here in the county. So if this thing passes today, what happens next? And then what do they do, and how do they know that they have to do this and all that?
So, a couple parts of your question there. I believe most farm equipment is exempt, right now, I believe. So as far as delivery vehicles, it's gonna be, and a lot of the permitting, which we do now, affects, construction companies, moving equipment.
Okay.
Or any heavy equipment, extremely heavy equipment. I know another one is, or production places such as Harvard Industries up at the T, exit up there. I know we run quite a few of their permits through us. I guess, I think we have been, as far as a lot of the people that are already doing the permitting, or that we permit for, I think we have a lot of email addresses, or we have contact information for them, and we have been notifying them that this is coming. And we let them know early this year, that we were gonna implement this, but I just didn't have a time frame on it. So I believe a lot of them are of the understanding that this is coming. One thing that it may affect farmers, again, is the oversize as far as hauling, because you get a lot of them that are moving bins or buildings down the road. And again, they would need an oversized permit for that. And again, just a single trip for that is $50 for that.
And then in terms of, we put this ordinance in place, and you've had discussions with the sheriff's office about implementation already, or not? You know, and here's where I'm going with that. You know, for example, we pass this, we've got to hand it off to our sheriff's department. They probably need to get time to get educated on how to implement it in terms of their departmental policies and all of that. But then, you know, how does it get enforced?
I guess I'm not sure how much the sheriff's department enforces oversized or overweight permits. I'm sure they typically probably don't make stops based just on that.
Right.
So most of this is gonna be through carrier enforcement,
Okay.
through the state. That would probably have enforcement on this.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff?
Yeah, I know, Terry, there'll be a lot of grain moving after the first of the year. There always is, you know, those in the agricultural sector, so it's important that they're aware.
Again, I just want to emphasize that nothing as far as the permit is changing in itself. I
Okay.
mean, we have a permit set up, you know, nothing in that is changing, is different than this. This is just establishing fees to charge for those. So,
All right, thank you, Terry. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak in favor of the ordinance that's in the audience? Anybody here who would like to speak against it? All right, if not, I'd ask for a motion to approve the ordinance.
Also move, Madam Chair.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, Sean, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Motion carries. Move on to item 2 on our agenda.
so the next item we have, we're gonna set the fee rate, and again, these are the numbers that I just, spoke of earlier. For this, for the ordinance. Sean, do you want me to read this entire resolution?
I can read it if you would like. This is a resolution to establish overweight, oversized permit fees. Whereas it is in the best interest of the county to develop and preserve Lincoln County roads and bridges by assuring that standard guidelines and permitting processes for overweight, oversized permits are in place. And whereas Lincoln County ordinance permits the Lincoln County Highway Superintendent to promulgate fees, rules, and regulations for the permitting of vehicles and equipment exceeding the maximum weight or size set by state law in SDCL Chapter 3222 on Lincoln County roads under his jurisdiction. And whereas the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners, in accordance with Lincoln County ordinance, seeks to adopt said fees, rules, and regulations for enforcement as contemplated by the ordinance. Now therefore be it resolved by the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners that the Lincoln County Highway Department is hereby authorized to charge the following fees. Single trip permits, oversized $50, overweight 80 to 100,000 pounds, $125, overweight 100,001 to 149,999 pounds, $175. Overweight 150,000 pounds and over, $225. Annual permits, oversized 100, overweight 80 to 100,000 pounds, $300. Overweight 100,001 to 149,999 pounds, $450. And overweight 150,000 pounds and over, $650. All fees collected shall be deposited to the Lincoln County Road and Bridge Fund.
Thank you. We've heard the request. Consider a motion.
Madam Chair, I have a question for Terry.
Sure.
Terry, where did the dollar amounts in here come from?
These are standard. We checked several of the other counties, and this is kind of what standard rates are, what other counties are charging for
Okay,
fees.
thank
So,
you.
Terry, just for the record, what does it cost to repair, let's say, a mile of road that was damaged by vehicles or by trucks being overweight?
That depends on the severity of the damage.
And on the average, what would you say?
For the amount of money that we're gonna raise on this, it probably wouldn't cover one patch on that in a mile. I mean, maybe a 500-foot patch.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be something. It'll be some additional funding. And again, if we were to have these, and again, these numbers, I have year-to-date on these, and I think these are effective as of maybe the end of October, or early November. But we would have collected almost 26,000. You
Okay.
know, so far this year, if we would have had it in place this year, so.
All right, thank you, Terry. Any more questions for staff? If not, I'd consider a motion.
I'll offer that motion to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, Sean, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Motion carries. We'll move on to item 3 on our agenda, which is a second reading and public hearing.
This is a second reading and public hearing for an ordinance of Lincoln County, South Dakota titled, "An Ordinance to Establish Access Permit Fees for Accesses Abutting a Lincoln County, South Dakota Road under the jurisdiction of the Lincoln County Highway Superintendent."
Thanks. Terry, go ahead.
All right, again, another ordinance, establish fees, for driveways access permits. Again, we've already have in place, the permitting process. Most of the rules and guidelines are within that, and we're within that, permitting process already. So again, this ordinance is basically just gonna set, fees, or give us the ability to set fees to, collect for those.
And how were the fees determined, Terry?
Again, with the fees on this, I checked around with what other counties are charging. I was gonna go a little higher than them, because I don't know how often they redo their fees or update their fees. But I opted to go with charging fairly close to what they are
All
per
right.
dollar amount, so. And again, these fees are gonna be to hopefully recover some of my time on these, because I have, it varies between 1 and probably 2-3 hours per permit that we have. I need to go out and do inspections to make sure they're built properly, or see if they can be built in the space that they want. Again, so this is just gonna hopefully recoup some of my time on this, so.
All right, thank you for that. Does any of the board have questions for staff?
I think I asked you previously, Terry, in an emergency situation that we haven't had problems in the past concerning
Yeah, and
those
again,
in agriculture needing a temporary driveway or something.
Again, I mean, I would, in the last 9 years since I've been working with the driveways, I have not had an instance such as that. Not saying it wouldn't happen, but I mean, I think there's some flexibility to give variance on that. I mean, we've had in the past, I've had contractors or property owners, I driving around and you see a pipe in the ditch. It's like, hey, what's going on here? It's contact landowner. Oh, we're building we're gonna build a driveway here. Well, I don't have a permit. Oh, I need to do a permit? Yeah. So it's like, well, a contractor's coming tomorrow. I was like, well, I'm okay with it here, the location of your driveway. But I said, I need a permit. Your contractor can build it. I'll get the permit, a day later, go out there and it's already done, which is fine. Again, so there are variances that up to the superintendent to give a lenience or variance on that, so.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for that. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to come up and state their views regarding the public hearing, either for or against? All right. If not, then I would ask for a motion to approve the ordinance.
I'll move to approve the ordinance.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, Sean, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. We'll move on to item 4 on the agenda.
This is a resolution to establish access permit fees. Whereas it is in the best interest of the county to develop and preserve Lincoln County right-of-ways, drainage, and roads by assuring that standard guidelines and permitting processes for access permits are in place. And whereas Lincoln County ordinance permits the Lincoln County Highway Superintendent to promulgate fees, rules, and regulations for the permitting of accesses abutting a Lincoln County road under his jurisdiction. And whereas the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners, in accordance with Lincoln County ordinance, seeks to adopt said fees, rules, and regulations for enforcement as contemplated by the ordinance, now therefore be it resolved by the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners that the Lincoln County Highway Department is hereby authorized to charge the following fees: residence access permit, $80. Field farm permit, $55. Commercial permit, $175. Improvement to existing access permit, $25. Temporary access permit, $25. All fees collected shall be deposited to the Lincoln County Road and Bridge Fund.
Thank you. If no one has any questions, I would ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank
Second.
you. Thank
Excuse
you.
me, second.
Any further discussion? If not, Sean, may you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Motion carries. I'll move on to item 5 on our agenda.
Thanks, Terry.
Mayor Lundstrom. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good. You can adjust that mic so anybody listening can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm here to represent the city of Canton. Like most cities in our county and state, Canton is experiencing aging infrastructure and lack of funding needed to complete the projects. In the event that restrictions are not lifted for funding the county received for water and sewer projects, the city of Canton would like to state our case and perhaps be allowed to receive some of these funds. We have a project that's been on hold for years, longer than I've been mayor. I'm not going to try to explain or pretend that I know all the ins and outs of our infrastructure. I do know that any expansions that we do have to the west will put more pressure on problems we already have. So I'm going to have our city engineer, Myron Adams, come and explain to you exactly what the project is that we would like to see go forward.
Morning, Adam.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Myron.
Good morning.
The project that the mayor has alluded to, we first got involved in this project probably about 2010. And at that time, we were looking at the old Beaver Creek lift station right here on Highway 18. In 2011, 12, and 13, the city went through that construction project of improving the Beaver Creek lift station. Spent about $1.5 million on making those improvements. And now what we know that needs to be done as well is the gravity sewer collection system downstream of this Beaver Creek lift station. Currently, the Beaver Creek lift station pumps into a gravity line that basically goes from Blair Street all the way down to the city maintenance yard. It's about 14 blocks. Currently, the city has issues with capacity on that entire stretch, especially during rainfall events. There's quite a bit of infiltration into the line across the entire community, which is nothing new for a number of communities. So the new lift station is set for the city for years, but we're running into constraints on that downstream collection, where there's been sewer backups into homes. And there's also been discharges from the lift station at times into the creek itself to alleviate additional damage to homes. So to help alleviate or minimize those impacts, this infrastructure project is about a $3.5 to $4 million project for the city. It would improve the sanitary sewer, the aging water system, the storm sewer collection system, and also the street surfacing as well. So it's a major infrastructure project for the south part of the city. You know, basically, the project, it eliminates or helps eliminate the backups in the sanitary sewer system, and will also help continue the growth on the west side of Sioux Falls, or west side of Sioux Falls, excuse me, the west side of Canton and to the north of, kind of the northwest corner of the community. That's what the lift station serves. So making the improvements downstream will help with the capacity issues, and also help serve the area to the west and northwest of the community. With that, I know I rambled a little bit on. If you have specific questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Does anybody have any questions for Myron?
Is this just to retrofit our existing lines, or is it a new one for help further development of the city or anything like that?
It would, so one, it's a replacement of, it's somewhat of a retrofit because we're replacing aging infrastructure, both the water and the sanitary sewer. But especially with on the sanitary sewer size, it would be upsized for a couple of reasons. One, to make sure that we can account for additional growth on the west side of Canton, and also to help to eliminate the sewage backups into the residents along this stretch. So there's the two main reasons for upsizing the sanitary sewer. With the water main, we'd probably upsize the water main a little bit as well, just to help with the overall fire protection on the south end of town.
And then does the main lift station, that can take on the extra capacity?
Yes, that was done back in, improvements to that lift station was done back in 2012, 2013. We've increased the pump sizes at that lift station back when we did the improvements to the Beaver Creek lift station. So that is all, the infrastructure at the main lift station is in place for this.
What's your, I mean, right now, how are you looking at having to finance that project? Just out of curiosity.
Right now, we have no funds to go forth with this project. We have received 600. Yeah, 636,000, and that will go towards that, beginning that project.
So is the 636 part of the 3.5 to 4? I mean, the 3.5 to 4 is the total cost projection?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so you would have that much to contribute.
Yep.
Is this a project, Mayor, that is capable of being segmented out? Do you have to do the whole thing, or can you do a certain portion of it in time, as funds permit or whatever?
Sure, everything will help.
Yeah.
As long as you've got, if we got a plan in place where you can do a few blocks a year, obviously you want to big, you want to take on as much as you can up front for monetary reasons and, project solution reasons. But there's, if this can, even if this can happen over 2, 3, 4, 5 years, if it gets done, will be a benefit to the community.
Byron, which one of these three projects is the most critical to the city of Canton?
Right, likely the Beaver Creek lift station, the trunk sewer improvements projects, because I think it has the most impact to the residents on the south end of the community and helping with some of the the backups into the sewer system.
And so if we segmented that out, how much does that project cost?
We're penciling about a $3.5 million project on that.
So just that project alone is 3.5
Just
to
that,
4?
correct.
So then what is the cost of the other two projects?
Let's see here. So the water main so there's two water main projects. Basically, the cities over the years have been trying to get rid of their old 4-inch cast iron water mains and going to an 8-inch PVC water main, basically to minimize the water service outages and also to improve fire flows. So the one you're seeing there on the screen, that's on 10th Street and Broadway down in the south, again, on the south end of town. The project cost on that is about $560,000 to replace those 3 blocks of water main. And then the other project that the city has looked at in the past is First Street, replacing the old 4-inch water main on First Street between Dakota Street and Cedar Street. That's kind of in your north central part of Canton. And that's about 4.5 blocks. So that kicks the estimate up to about $750,000.
How much
there's-
was that last figure?
$750,000.
Is that in addition to the 560?
Yes, they're all separate under
They are,
them, all
okay.
separate under themselves, because the city would try to tackle those projects separately.
Sure.
Sandy, how much is the city of Canton spending on these various projects in your next year's budget, or budget? Do you have
We haven't budgeted anything for
any
the
of this
project.
yet?
No, not at this time.
In years past, what have you put a certain number aside for these kinds of upgrades?
We put about 50,000 back in a reserve for improvements, but again, that doesn't get you very far.
No.
Sir, I'm sorry, I just want everybody to be able to hear you that may be listening. If you want to come on up to the microphone, please.
The city puts away between $25,000 and $50,000 a year for system improvements. And obviously, over the last several years, we've done lift station improvements, we've done the lagoon improvements. The only place that money comes from these are from user rates. So,
How much does the city have in reserve right now?
250, 300,000.
Have you guys looked at going to the state water board for loans, grants?
We have, the city in itself, I think our debt capacity is 8 million, we're about 6.5. So, you're talking a $3.5 million project that's of a magnitude that we can't do under our current debt.
Are there any grants or economic development funds available from state water board?
Not that we've come across.
Anybody else have any questions?
Do you have a specific amount you're looking at? Besides 11 million?
I don't know if there's a specific amount. I mean, obviously, anything is gonna help facilitate a project. When you're looking at 3.5 million, I mean, when you've only got 1.5 million in debt capacity, I mean, there's limited amounts you can do on that large scale of a project.
Has the Beaver Creek project, has that been engineered? I mean, is it ready to roll, or where's it at in the course of things?
We've done preliminary work, but at this point in time, if we were allowed to get going in the, winter, spring of '22, you'd see construction in '23.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or anything else you want us to know today?
No, thank you for listening to us. Thank
You
you.
bet, and
Okay.
it'll be an ongoing discussion, but
Yes.
how these funds are gonna get spent or distributed, so thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you for coming down today.
Thank you for
Thank you,
listening.
Sally.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move on to item 6 on our agenda. Joel, are you teeing this one up?
Sure can. So, Lincoln County is an investor and a participant in the Sioux Metro Growth Alliance. For those of you who don't know, Sioux Metro Growth Alliance is a new name for two different organizations, the Minnehaha County Economic Development Association as well as the Lincoln County Economic Development Association. And so they rebranded in order to kind of go beyond just Minnehaha and Lincoln counties, hence the name Sioux Metro Growth Alliance. Normally, each of the municipal and/or county entities that participate on the advisory boards will do a resolution at the beginning of every year to, basically assign or volunteer who the member of the board is going to be that participates on the Growth Alliance. So all that this resolution is, reinforcing or making it official in terms of which persons on this board are going to continue to participate on the Sioux Metro Growth Alliance. And so, I've been participating in it for the last 2.5 to 3 years since I've been on this board. It's been a fantastic opportunity, and, I'll volunteer to continue on there, and I think we just need to make it official here with this resolution. And then we need an alternate as well. So if there's any other members of this commission who'd like to serve as an alternate, it would be appreciated.
So, I see that the signatory on the resolution is a mayor.
Yeah, I think that.
Is that just a typo?
Yeah, I didn't make this document. It came from Sioux Met.
It would be, that
think
wouldn't
we-
be necessary.
Yeah, we gotta fix that to chairwoman.
If I may, normally we make these appointments on the first meeting of January of each year. Is that the correct time to do this resolution?
That
Or a
was my-
resolution like it?
That was my question too, is that normally we make all these appointments at our first meeting, but is there a need to do it now?
At our last advisory board meeting, we talked about doing it now instead of January. We did, the only reason being is because we wanted to have the members of the advisory board done at the same time as our corporate partners. This actually was discussed, I think it was brought up by myself as well as one of the other members from Minnehaha County, is that county commissions tend to usually do it after the first of the year anyway. So this commission can do whatever it wants. It's just that the advisory board wanted to align everybody on the same timetable. So I have no, what do you want to say? If I had my druthers, I don't care when we do it.
Right.
It doesn't matter to me.
I would just say that they probably need to go through it. It looks like there's just some Scrivener errors in the document that probably need to be corrected.
I'd agree.
even-
Madam Chair, do you want to table this until after the first of the year? And
Oh.
that gives them enough time to
We can,
reformat?
we can do it on the 28th, we can do it at the first of the year.
It looks like
Doesn't matter to me.
Mr. Fonkert needs this by January 14th, and our first meeting in January is the 4th. So we would be able to add this to the list of our normal appointments. And then
Okay.
that way, in future years, if there's any commissioner turnover, we can do it when their term starts.
Okay, sure, that makes sense. Yeah, let's just do that, and then that gives them a chance to correct some of the things in the resolution that don't look to be correct. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to item 7 on our agenda, which is the redistricting. I believe we have somebody here from CCOG perhaps. This is an informational meeting, so I'm going to turn the floor over.
Sounds good. So. Okay.
Oh, I can't control the mouse. And then you can just scroll down through it.
Okay. So normally Jason's here to give these presentations, but he is currently out of the office with COVID, and I am back from my 10-day quarantine from getting COVID from Jason. So I'm wearing the mask, so I hope no one here gets it from me. So I passed my 10 days, but I'm hoping it ends with me. So if for some reason you can't hear me because of the mask, I'll try to scoot closer to the microphone. So the complicated part of this is I am giving Jason's presentation, so it's always fun to give someone else's presentation when you haven't made it. So that being said, we'll start off. So redistricting occurs every 10 years because of the census populations change, so things get, with your commissioners and at the city level, if you have wards, it all gets shaken up and the state leaves it to the commission or the city to sort out their representatives. So it all happens because of the census. The census comes through and people move and people are born, people die, and everything changes. So we pick up the pieces, and census blocks are what the census focuses on at the local level of things. It's the smallest area they look at. They're not based on population in an area. It's generally based on a geographic feature or a size or some kind of blocks. There are blocks across the country where there are 0 people living in them because they're in the middle of the desert or the middle of the mountains or that kind of thing. So that's kind of census blocks. And the census blocks, when you try to do redistricting, of course, your most basic information is those census blocks. So that's kind of the blocks you have to put together to build the district. So the concept of redistricting is based on the idea that everyone that lives in Lincoln County should have an equal voice. So you should have an equal say in who your representation is. So trying to divide it up. Ideally, in a situation, say your county had 3,000 people and you had 3 commissioners. You would want each commissioner to represent roughly 1,000 people, just so everyone's voice is equal. But while that's good in notion, it's hard in practice just because you don't have people spaced out equally, kind of like a checkerboard. There's 5 people in a house, and there's 1 person in a house, and there's no people in that house, and there's 10 people in that house. So it doesn't work out quite like the checkerboard, so you have to kind of arrange it differently. So state law doesn't say a whole lot about percentages, but it's my understanding the 10% is kind of a judicial court where they would like to see the 1 person, 1 vote thing. Where the 10% comes from, you have fluctuations in your districts. They don't want the one with the highest amount of people and the one with the lowest amount of people to be more than 10% apart. Just so the concept of your vote matters just as much as your neighbors, and their vote matters just as much as yours. So that's where that kind of comes from. So roughly, if in this example gives 1,000 people, so the ideal number is the direct math, but because it's not the checkerboard, you generally won't end up with perfect space districts. So we try to make it so it comes out as equal as we can. And in this case, in this example, there's overpopulation by 8%. So, and there's underpopulated by 7. So this has a lot of examples, but so the way it kind of works is, so District 1 in this example is overpopulated by 8. And then the next district is underpopulated by 7. So you would look at the difference between you have 8 above and you have 7 below. So the difference would be greater than the 10 spread, so it wouldn't work. You'd have to find some way to 5 and 5 or 2 and 8, somewhere to keep the 10 between the highest and the lowest. It's a lot of statistics stuff that Jason is a lot better at than I am, but that's kind of where the numbers flesh out. There's no perfect science in the proposed maps. It's more or less trying to find something that works and do the best you can to make sure everyone's vote counts equally. So we've prepared all sorts of, or Jason has prepared all sorts of examples. And I believe this one is if you kept your existing districts exactly as they are, the problem that you would end up with is, even though Lincoln County is growing, which is a good thing and a bad thing depending on how you want to look at it. Some people will see, you can make arguments probably either way. Some people will find a way to do it. But every one of your districts has grown in population and some more than others, so that throws off the equality among your commissioners, so it's trying to rebalance. So this is how things have grown. Some quite a bit more than others. District 2's grown by a little less than 1,000, whereas 5 and 1 have grown quite a bit. So you would want District 2 people to still have the same representative vote as a District 5 person. So this is kind of what Jason looked at when he came up with the way the proposals are situated. He looked at, you didn't want to have one part of a district all on the other side of some major feature and just some little isolated part on the other. You kind of want to keep communities together. You want to, and that goes into the keeping the districts compact, and contiguous is all together. So you want, generally, you want to try to keep things the same, but you want to have places that identify as a community to still be that community. He wanted to minimize changes to current district as people get used to their community and they want to keep it. And the goal was to keep the current commissioners in the district they currently represent and try to keep it within that 10 range from going beyond that. So this is what Jason used to prepare the 5 maps, and at this point it is kind of the commission's decision with the public's input to decide how they would like to redraw the maps. So those maps there are 5 examples, or 5. That doesn't necessarily have to be the one you choose. Those are just examples of how you can do it, so it's kind of up to you what you all think.
Do you have those 5 maps as part of your, that you can put up on the screen and talk about them a little bit?
So if anyone wants to see some of the maps just up close in front of you, there are copies on the table up here as well.
Thank you.
So I think you might want to just do the detail ones.
Yep.
So just click on those. If you click.
Okay.
Oops.
Thank you.
So, as I said, it's not an exact science that it must be this way or it must be that way. These are just ways to do it. There are probably pros and cons to each, and I imagine your auditor could speak better to that based on how cities divide up theirs, just so everyone's ballot doesn't have to have 5 different things on it. But, so this is alternative 1. This is what Jason came up with. It's an example of how to lay it out based on population to try to keep things close to what they are, but reflect how population has changed. And in Lincoln County, for better or worse, you are very top-heavy, with Sioux Falls having a large portion of your county population.
It might be more beneficial to open the other one because it shows the percentages of differences.
Yeah, thank you. And I don't know, Sherry, or do you want to speak to these alternatives, and
I can, yeah.
do you want to do that?
Yep, so all the alternatives split up the districts with exception of the option 4. So now I gotta figure out which one I'm on. So there's alternative 1. We've got a total deviation of 4.85, but you'll notice that the city of Harrisburg is in 3 different districts, commission districts. And,
And it would be 1, 2, and 3, is
Yeah.
that correct?
yep, and then, where did I do with 4, 2? Okay, so alternative 2, you'll see Harrisburg is still outside. District 4 is pulled down to 279th Street. Lennox, Worthing, and Canton are all in, and Fairview and Hudson are all in the same district. That's a 5.34 deviation. And, oh my gosh. What did I do with 3? Alternative 3 is, it includes the cities. They wrapped Harrisburg all into one district, so it wouldn't be split. But then you see that that pulls District 2 up into those townships up here. And then 4, this one has the least amount of changes to the current precincts. It ends up with 210 splitting compared to the other ones that do more splits in them. And it also keeps the cities all in one district with a deviation of 6.2.
And what was the deviation on that one?
On 4
Yeah,
was 6.2.
okay.
With District 2 having the least and District 5 having the most.
And that keeps Harrisburg all together.
Yep.
All right, do any of the commissioners have any questions of staff? If not, we'll move on to the public hearings portion of this agenda item. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to come up and comment or ask questions, we'll address those as best that we can. I'm going to ask that everybody keep their comments limited to 3 minutes, just so we can keep moving things along. Good morning.
Yeah, thank you. Jim Bolin, resident of Lincoln County. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak briefly today. I want to urge you to adopt an at-large plan for the election of county commissioners for the following reasons. And I just kind of dovetailing off what the gentleman from CCOG was talking about equality as far as voting is concerned. First, the current system of districts for each commissioner is no longer workable or effective in Lincoln County. The current population pattern has seen all or almost all the growth in the far northern portions of the county. That means that to balance the population for commissioner districts, almost all the rest of the geography of the county is represented by one commissioner, while the densely concentrated voters in a very small geographical area of the county elect the majority of the members. That seems somewhat dubious to me. County government is designed to primarily, but not exclusively, it's designed to meet the needs of those who live outside the boundaries of cities and towns. The current population patterns in our county make the current district plan fundamentally flawed, no matter how it is shaped. Again, considering the population patterns of recent growth, which is somewhat unique to Lincoln County over the last 20 years or so. Secondly, when a majority of the commissioners are elected exclusively from areas and by voters that have minimal contact with rural and small-town interests, the potential exists that the interests of the small towns and rural people will be limited. This may or not occur, but the potential is clearly evident. Therefore, I believe we will benefit the entire county, both rural and urban, with an at-large election system where every commissioner is explicitly elected by all the voters of the county. By making this needed fundamental and positive change, all the commissioners will be linked to all the voters. The district system works well when you have a stable population pattern that is exhibited in many of our smaller rural counties across the state. And it's worked well for a while here in Lincoln County. However, when you have a major shift in population, especially when it's concentrated in certain geographical areas, that system of districts is no longer adequate to meet the needs of the public. Please make the positive decision at some point in the future to adopt an at-large system for the election of Lincoln County Commissioners. I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Good morning.
Good morning, Commission. Chad Skiles, 820 North Dakota Street here in Canton. Just a couple things that I would like to mention and talk on. First off, I want to thank the Commission for the 5, this being the 5th, public meeting and allowing public input into this big decision that has to be made. I thought, being one of the few people that attended all 5 of the meetings, I thought there was some pretty good input from the citizens, both in the northern part of the county, the more densely populated area, and in the southern part, less populated area of the county. I want to personally thank Commissioner Gibbon, who attended all 5 meetings. Commissioner Schmidt, who attended all 5 meetings. To Commissioner Aaron's, who attended 4 plus 1 by phone.
Yep.
I got that one in there, Commissioner Aaron's. As far as where we're at, I see 2 ultimate options. One, we stay with the districting. One, we go with the at-large. Both ideas have their pros and cons. I'm not going to say where I'm at either way on the decision. But I just hope that the Commission will take into consideration all of the public input that was received and heard at the different meetings. Initially, I will say that I was completely convinced that we needed to stay districts. But after listening to a lot of input, I obviously see the advantages to an at-large in Lincoln County as well. So I ask for the Commission to go this way. With the district options, to me, there's only one clear one that probably even needs to be considered, and that is number 4. Simply because that's the one that most closely follows splitting precincts versus the at-large option. So I'm looking forward to Commission discussion on this and to see where it goes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else want to come up and make comment?
Chad, thank you for attending all 5 as well, because there are many of you in here that have done that.
David Gillespie. Good
Good
morning.
morning. Good morning.
1125 East Elder Street, Canton, South Dakota. I was on the commission for 12 years. When I first ran, I had 4 townships in '08. And in 10, when I ran again, in the 10 districting segment, we had 2 picks, 11 townships or 13. We had a majority vote to go with the 13 townships. And District 2 was large then. Now, it looks like it's even gonna go larger. And with 16 plus counties going at large in South Dakota, I think the time has come for Lincoln County to look at it at large redistricting. And I think by 2032, and I agree with Senator Bowman over here, the time has come where we will have to make a decision to look at it in large pick. So with that, that's all I have. But the growth, it'll be worse by 2032 to stay in separate districts. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the audience want to come up and make comment?
Hi, Betty Otten, T. I also attended all five, and I want to thank all of you that attended all five of them specifically. I'm definitely all in for the at-large position. I know some of you have said that you're really not for that, but again, Minnehaha County is all at-large, and the at-large redistricting, I believe, is fairness for the entire county. And I know that it's always brought up that you guys, even though you live in Sioux Falls, you represent the entire county. And I understand that. However, I think that the entire county needs to vote on who represents us in Lincoln County. Not because if it's in districts, only those people in those districts can run, and only those people in those districts can vote. If you do an at-large, then everybody gets to vote and everybody has the opportunity to run when you guys have decided that you're not going to. So anyway, thank you for your participation. Thank you for making them public, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Going once? Come on up.
Hi, Eric Holman from Canton, South Dakota. Thank you for hearing us, and I deeply appreciate this. Is my first time. I'm going to maybe go in a little bit different direction. I believe the at-large would be great, but if that was to default and not work in your eyes, if we go to the districting, where there's several plans that have been proposed, there's two of them that cause me great concern. Number 2 and number 5, in my opinion, would take away the voice, the rural voice. And I'm not going to call it gerrymandering because that's too ugly of a term, but you know, if on the federal level, we are very fortunate. We have such a small population in South Dakota, but yet we do have a voice in the House of Representatives. We have one voice. It's insignificant, but at least we have a voice, and our concerns are heard. I feel that is important for, on a smaller scale in Lincoln County, that the folks that are outside of the immediate Sioux Falls metro area, I think we're still part of the MSA, but you know, we're still rural folks here, and all of the ag producers that are outside, that are south of the Harrisburg Sioux Falls area, you know, they need a voice. And if we were to adopt number 5, that would be no different than on a federal level if we had stripes, corduroy stripes going across the United States. We would maybe have an opportunity to vote in the state of South Dakota 3 or 4 representatives, but we wouldn't, because the coasts would negate our voice, because we would be overpowered by their numbers. So I'm going to leave it up to you to figure out what it is, but I would just like to voice a concern for 2 and 5. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Good morning.
Marlene Sweeter, 47158 283rd Street, Worthing, South Dakota. Having been a part of everything that has been involved with the commission for many years, I will say initially, after going to a couple of the meetings, I did think that probably at large was a good choice. But then I spent some time listening to some of the meetings and to see that probably number 4 would be a good option for us still to have some representation. I know it leaves a lot of space for District 2. But I think to have their own representation is probably still a good choice for us. At large may be coming, but at this point, my suggestion would be option number 4. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, thank you for that. We will be actually voting on this when, Sherry, February? February 1st. Can you come up and tell us a little more about the rest of the process?
Okay, so December 14th through January 11th, we're going to have open comment period. We've got comment cards on the table. We've also got them on the website. So if you'd fill them out and get them to us, to the auditor's office, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to compile all the comments, give it to, as a briefing packet to the commissioners. January 11th, the board will authorize us to advertise for a meeting to be held on February 1st to do the vote for the redistricting. And it has to be finalized by February 1st, so.
All right. I'll just finish up with asking if any of the commissioners have any questions for staff.
Madam Chair, I don't have any questions. And I commend everybody that's here and have made their opinion. But when you look around this room today, how many people are from the north end of the county? How many people, when you got your population up there, and I haven't made an opinion one way or the other. But what concerns me is if you do vote at large, how many of those individuals that live there, which is the majority of the population, are aware of that situation? When we recently had an election, I don't know how many calls and people that said, I didn't even know we were having an election. Why don't you people inform us? Well, as I've told some of you, I think when we were in Sioux Falls, where we had nobody from that area showed up for the redistricting, it's a real concern of mine because those individuals, like it or not, carry the burden of the tax, paying for the taxes for the county. And how we educate them is, in my mind, very important because they have every right to know what's going on in our county as well as everybody else. So I don't have any answers. If any of you have some ideas, we publish our stuff in our local papers, our local ones, whether it's in Canton or Beersford or Lennox or T, and we put our minutes in the Argus Leader. But as far as educating the individuals on what this would mean for them, I'm left wanting on if they know we have a website. But I wish there was some way in which we could engage all of the taxpayers of Lincoln County in this whole process. And so far, I'm going to take the blame. I've talked to a lot of them. I've walked a few neighborhoods. I've tried to educate people, but you know, you've got apartment places that are living up there by the hundreds. Half of them don't even know they live in Lincoln County, or do they care, I guess, for that matter. So, you know, this is going to be well, we're going to have to spend some time thinking about this in the long run, but I appreciate all your comments.
Thank you.
Commissioner Schmidt, thank
Yes.
you for your comments. I want to thank, I really do want to thank everybody who participated and attended in these meetings. It was a master class in public participation. And we received some really great comments. And this is the example of how we ought to do things in terms of soliciting public opinion. Because we really have learned things that we wouldn't have learned through, you know, for example, 3 to 5 minute public comments at these kinds of meetings. And so we really learned a lot, and that is thanks to the people who have participated. Commissioner Schmidt, what I would say is if you want to hear from more of the people, hold town hall meetings. I think I've held 4 or 5 now, and I've had at least a dozen people show up to each of them. And you can really find out what people are thinking when you make a concerted effort to make sure that people come to you and talk to you. And I've learned things by doing these town hall meetings that you wouldn't ordinarily learn about. And I'll tell you this, in South Dakota, people will shoot you straight. So they'll give you the straight stuff and they'll tell you what you're really thinking. So that's how we can't, as elected leaders, sit back and wait for people to come to us. We have to meet people where they are. And you do that by making a concerted effort to go to them, as opposed to, it's the old Mohammed in the mountain story, right? You have to go to them. And so this really has been instructive for me in terms of there are a lot of people out there who care very deeply about what the future of their county looks like. With regard to the redistricting issue, what I would say is, if anybody is worried about the size of the districts, there's only going to be one day in which the districts are proportional, and that's on day one. After that, you are going to see phenomenal growth in the Sioux Falls area, and it's not going to stop, and it's only going to continue, and it's going to be tremendous. We just had a presentation last week saying that once the city of Sioux Falls builds the Southeast Sanitary Sewer District out, they're anticipating 70,000 people eventually, not all at once, of course, who will live in the joint jurisdictional area. And that effectively is my district. Now, I don't think 70,000 people are going to grow up there overnight, nor be there in the next 10 years. But the fact of the matter is, and I think Senator Bolin called this spot on, is how population growth is going to be controlled in this county. And it's through planning and zoning. And right now, population growth is being throttled, and it's being throttled by the city of Sioux Falls. And so the city of Sioux Falls is gonna control what that population growth looks like, and they want it to grow from the north moving south. And I also think that you're not gonna have that kind of tremendous growth in the southern end of the county. And so for those worried about people having, the ag community having a voice, I know it sounds counterintuitive, but you have a equal opportunity to have a voice for the ag community by going at large. It sounds counterintuitive, but you're not guaranteed equal results in elections, but you are guaranteed equal opportunity in elections. And if you give everybody the opportunity to run for all the spots, you've got an equal opportunity for all voices to be heard. And so I am moving pretty solidly towards wanting to support an at-large system, because the deviations are going to be out of whack on day one. And so you saw the population growth there in District 1, my district, 9,000 10 years ago and 15,000. It's going to look just like that again, even worse 10 years from now. And I don't want those people's voices to be watered down. I don't want anybody's voice to be watered down. So I think democracy is about showing up to the polls and about showing up to the elections. And we ought to give everybody an equal opportunity to run for these offices. And the last thing I'll say, elections are about accountability. So if you're going to make decisions that affect the whole county, why not be accountable to the whole county? That's the way the Founding Fathers set up our system, is they wanted accountability. And that's what elections do. So let's just be accountable to all the citizens of the county for all the decisions we make, regardless of whether we represent one district or not. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners would like to comment?
I think it's been an interesting process. When I think of our first meeting that we had in Harrisburg, there seemed to be a trend where they were supporting a vertical division in our county, and that was quite interesting. We had a second meeting in Lenox, and it seemed to be there a little more support for at-large. Our third meeting in Sioux Falls, there was no one there from that particular district. And so some of us that were there had been at previous meetings and expressed again some of the good things and reservations of all the plans. Last week in T, I think there was more support probably for at-large and for number 4. And today, you have been here and you've heard some of the same things. Some of the at-large and number 4 seems to be one of the things that is a support amongst people. So it has been interesting. I think that I'm still curious to see the particular comments made on our comment cards yet, and so on and so forth. I think Commissioner Aaron's has made some good reservations or observations, and at the same time, I know that the growth is everywhere. I look at my area, and I think over about a 4-mile stretch, there's 24 residents, 24 places of homes of family residents, and about half of them have been new since the last 4 years or 3 years. And I mean, there's houses going up even now. The growth is coming, and especially along county roads, and I think it will continue. People enjoy the particular lifestyle that we have in Lincoln County, and the fact that they can purchase property on a 40-acre tract and so forth. So I don't think it's going to stop in the southern part of the county either. So again, I think very thankful for the people here today that made comments about any of the plans, and I look forward to even more comments and phone calls or whatever it might be over the next 6 weeks.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item 8 on our agenda, which is a first reading.
This is a first reading for an ordinance of Lincoln County, South Dakota, rezoning the property legally described as Lot 1, Dakota Steel Edition, east half of the northeast quarter, Section 31, Township 97 North, Right 49 West, from the A1 Agricultural District to the I1 Light Industrial District, and amending the official zoning map of Lincoln County. Location is 2902947 Avenue.
Good morning.
Morning.
Applicant owner for this application is Grand Valley Properties LLC. Location of this property is approximately 7.5 miles northeast of the city of Beersford. Parcel size is 6.77 acres. The purpose for this application, if I can get back here one time. The purpose of this application is Dakota Steel is proposing to build a 100-foot by 250-foot warehouse building. This would be an expansion of their business that they currently operate to the north, which is adjacent to the property. The board has set the second reading public hearing for this ordinance amendment for the 28th. With that, we'd have to answer any questions that you have for staff at this time.
Toby, what does it actually mean by changing the zoning from what they present have to light industrial? What is the actual change that incurs?
So as you can see, the adjacent property to the north is where they're currently operating on I-1 Light Industrial. They approached the office to construct a warehouse-type building. The current property zoning is A1 agricultural. Warehousing is not a permitted, permissive, conditional use in the A1 agricultural district. So in order to issue a building permit to construct this and allow them to expand, it would have to be rezoned to I-1 Light Industrial. Planning Commission did an affirmative motion on this. That affirmative motion was denied unanimously. So their recommendation is to not approve this application.
Toby, when is the next reading?
Your next meeting on the 28th.
On the 28th. All right,
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Move on to item 9 on our agenda.
This is a first reading for an ordinance of Lincoln County, South Dakota, rezoning the property legally described as Lot 4, Hoffman's Addition, southwest quarter, the southwest quarter, Section 31, Township 100 North, Right 50 West, from the A1 Agricultural District to the I1 Light Industrial District, and amending the official zoning map of Lincoln County. Location is parcel number 15031J004.
Okay, thank you. The applicant owner of this is Double H Land Company LLC. This property is approximately 1,300 feet to the south of the city of T corporate limits. Parcel size is approximately 2.27 acres. The purpose of this application is that the owners intend to operate a concrete asphalt recycling facility on the property. Like the previous application, you've scheduled the second reading public hearing for this ordinance amendment for your next meeting on December 28th. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have for staff at this time.
This is not meant to be premature. Have they talked to their neighbors?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to item 10 on our agenda. We had, we're looking at the highway superintendent moving out to the highway building. I went out there and looked around with what the space needs are. And I don't know if Terry is anywhere around. Sherry, can you see if you can get him in here? There's not enough space out there for him right now as it currently sits. The front area has a small conference room that seats I'd say four people comfortably. There's not really a video conferencing system or anything like that out there. Jared's office is there, and there is a reception area. There's no area for storage of the files, and it's my understanding that even downstairs his storage capability is at max capacity. So in speaking with our highway superintendent, I think some kind of addition would need to be built on and go out to the west to give them the room that they need to move him out there, as well as have storage facility. And we also talked about future growth as far as whether, I know there's been discussions about sometime in the future, the county possibly hiring their own engineer to have office space out there for the engineer. So wondering what the board is thinking, if we want to have Arc Designs did the original building, or Arc Inc., excuse me, if we want to have them give us some prices on what they would cost, what it would cost to design something out there for them. Terry, do you want to explain what the space needs are that you're seeing if you move out to the highway shop?
So currently, space-wise, we would have room to put Rhiannon, my admin, out there. There is space out there for her. But the small conference room we have would not be large enough office space for myself. That's the only other space we have out there for office space, is that conference room, basically. And then I do have a vault downstairs where we have all of our project plans from beginning of time for roads and bridges and such. So we would need some storage for that as well. So I guess the needs, what we do in that conference room now is we do evals, employee evals out there, employee reprimands if they happen, and we do job interviews out there as well. So in that
Terry,
conference
would
room.
we be able to accomplish those? I mean, do we need to build on, or could we just reorganize?
So to reorganize the space you have,
Yeah.
the only way, no, you would not be, there's not room to reorganize unless you take the training room or the break room, the conference, for the employees, for staff, unless you take that out. But then where are they gonna have their meetings?
Right.
Yeah, if you go out, I mean, if you've been out there, there's a kitchenette area and a kind of a U-shaped training table room, and when that's full, it's full, isn't it?
Yes. Well, yeah, if we can get fully staffed, then it's full in there.
So if we hire on, or if there's growth in that, in the highway department and all that, I don't see, and we looked at, whether you could cut off part of that. We talked about making the conference room that's sitting there into a hallway and doing a bump out addition on the west side to give those office spaces. And I think what we were talking about, was it 3 offices?
Yeah, so per earlier this year, when I had my discussion with Arc Inc., when the building committee was going on, I guess future growth for my department as far as office staff, I think at some point we could surely have the discussion of hiring on our own full-time engineer. I believe at this point in time, we would be able to keep them busy enough, and the money that we would probably save that money rather than spending it out of house. We could do some of that in-house. So that would be one additional staff. The second additional staff, again, if you're looking out 10 years, if you're going to have an engineer, then you could possibly have either like a CAD person that has an engineering, but it's not an engineering degree, or a land surveyor, because then you could take care of a lot of your surveying needs in-house.
And then you have was there just some computer stations at the back of the training room that are used? Can you explain kind of who uses those?
So currently, right now, there are two computer stations set up at the rear of the training room where the employees are. That's where they enter in their times for timesheets daily. So, as far as additional space needs, currently I have a fairly good-sized conference room down in the office now. I would probably need something like that since we do bid openings, and we'll fill that room up when I have bid openings with contractors coming in for bid openings. So you'd need a large space to have bid openings again, because to me it wouldn't make sense to have bid openings come up here. You'd have to try to find a space that's available up here to do bid openings, so we just do it out at the shop if I had to move out there. So.
What do you think it's gonna cost to add on this amount of space that you think you need?
I'm not up with the building costs. I don't have an idea, Joel. I just.
What's the square footage you need?
And again, I guess that's something that I don't know. I guess I would look to something comparable to what I have now. I guess I haven't looked at square footage of where I am now.
John, do you know what the square footage is down there?
I mean, and if you're going to add two additional in the next 10 years, if you wanted to add on growth for them 2 offices, but.
I guess the short answer is I don't have an actual square footage, but are you just talking his office space with the storage of
Well, he would
storage, or
he would need storage, he would need his office, and he would need a conference room, and then potentially 1 or 2 office spaces for a CAD operator or engineer.
I think we have. Do we have those numbers when we met with ARC Inc. as a potential future need within the next 10 years?
They might have.
I think we do have his potential growth needs for the 10-year step out, so that I could go find that number probably.
You're probably looking at under 2,000 square feet, right?
Well, right.
Typical office size is 3 times 3, 900, plus this other office storage space, plus your space downstairs. That creeps up to just about 2,000
Yeah, I would
square
say
foot, doesn't it?
2,000, 2,500 square
Yep.
feet maybe is what I would say off the cuff, but without really discussing it more, I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, if the board wants, we could ask ARC Inc. to go out there and look at it, but they're gonna want to be paid for their time. What they would charge us to just go out there and take a look at what the space needs are and what they would charge us to do that, and maybe come up with something, whether it's a bump out or maybe a standalone is less expensive. I don't know the answer to that question, that you be out there, but maybe it's a standalone office. I know Commissioner Schmidt had talked about maybe even government housing that was available that could go out there, and you could design that the way you wanted to, the interior of it. I'll let him speak to that if he'd like to.
I checked with South Dakota Housing, and municipal governments have an option to purchase at a very nominal fee the exterior of a governor's house, and then you have to design your own office situation. And a 3-bedroom home is about shy of 1,500 square feet, that you would have space inside, that's inside dimensions, So if you put three offices in there and a conference room, I don't know how that would work. They do have the ability, if you got a sketchy design, for example, Terry, and you wanted to send that off, they could give you several different variations that they have available from their design people. And then they can give you an estimate on what the actual cost would be. You buy the particular thing and you have two choices. You can have them design it, they can do it, and they have inmate labor that does that, but there is a cost. Or you can do it yourself if you want to, and they can deliver the box. And then you have to pay, or whoever buys it delivers the actual building to the site you chose. So, and that's just stuff. You'd put a slab on grade. It would be an independent building. It would have its own heating system, its own, it's a house. It's basically what it's built to be. So,
Well, I'm just wondering if there's some consensus to have Terry go to ARC Inc. and see what they would charge to go out and come up with a plan for Terry to move out there so we could get some costs put together.
well, at this point, we're just spitballing the whole thing. I'd like to
Right.
find out what it would cost so we can make some evaluations on how we should move forward. That'd be my particular wish.
Terry, do you want to call ARC Inc. and have them maybe come in and talk to us about what they would need to look at that?
You wanna have them at the next meeting then to,
Well, I think so. Usually we would, we'd have some contract, we'd hire them for professional services to go out there and come up with a plan. They're gonna want something, I'm sure, in advance of
I
that.
can contact Andrew,
Okay.
so.
Is everybody okay with ARC Inc. since they did the original building?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
All right,
You
thanks.
bet. Move on to item 11 on our agenda. We had talked about, at the last meeting, hiring an engineer to do some survey work out at that T property. I don't know if there's anybody here in particular to speak on that issue. And it's on my agenda item, but I don't know, do we have somebody in mind?
Did you see the briefing form that I attached on there?
Well.
Yep.
Originally, I had reached out to IMEG about it.
Okay.
And they said that they could do the survey for $2,000 to $2,500. It would include the outside boundary platted and marked in the field. They'd also locate the flood zone so they can determine the buildable areas.
Yeah, Madam Chair, and I can speak to this as well.
Go
I sat
ahead.
down and had multiple conversations with Marcus Malin. He believed that taking this step would make the property not only more marketable, but gives him the ability to market the property as well as our realtor. And, just having experience with selling these properties, I'd agree with him. I think that's the logical next step forward here, given the fact that, the land it's a diverse piece of land, I'll just call it that. So I think it'd be helpful to have the survey done.
And who would we be hiring?
I don't have any person or entity in mind. I mean, it sounds like a professional service, and it sounds like contacts have been made with IMEG already by the auditor. So, you can throw a rock and hit surveyors and engineers. So.
Well, I'm fine with IMEG doing it. I mean, if we're gonna do it, we need to have a motion. That was the numbers they gave you, Sherry?
I'll move to hire IMEG to survey the property.
I'll second that.
All right. Any further discussion? If not, Sean, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's.
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Move on to item 12 on our agenda.
I believe we also need to appoint a commissioner as a direct contact for this project, yes?
I'd prefer it, yeah.
I think since that is Commissioner Poppins' area and he's not here, that I think we appoint Commissioner Poppins. Thoughts?
Don't care.
Do you want to ask, Commissioner Poppins if he's willing to do that?
Yes.
All right. What do you got, Sherry?
So the Department of Revenue did a review of the budget and the budget resolution, and we found an error they found an error online at 311 in the revenue portion of the budget. I had the line stated as 14,278,961 current property taxes on the budget worksheet, and 14,275,303 on the resolution. There's a decrease of $3,658. The 14,275,303 is our growth in CPI number, so we need to make a change on the budget for that. Also, with the rural fire, I had it listed as 91,575, and it should have been 91,546. So I just need a motion to make the changes on the budget.
All right, for the request, is there a motion?
I'll move to adjust 2022 budget per review as per what the auditor just said.
All right, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Sean, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's.
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. And then Sherry, you're gonna handle item 13?
I am. So we received the money from, it's the Rural Access Infrastructure Fund. We received
Oh,
$52,328.
we skipped 13.
Okay.
15.
Oh,
That's the digital timer
then.
controversy.
That's gonna be Jim.
All right.
We
Okay.
basically, I put everything down in the,
You gave me a cheat sheet.
I gave
okay?
him a cheat sheet.
All
And
right.
I'll read it, since we had some issues. Over the past years, a timer has been requested by several chairs and committee leaders. In the commission chambers, there is a timer hanging on the wall that we attempted to implement several years ago. It was difficult to use and did not effectively serve our purpose for public meetings. A plan was set into place to replace the timer with a more feature-rich timer that is similar to what the city of Sioux Falls uses. The new timer came at a cost of $1,117, which was budgeted as an AV upgrade for the commission chambers. The timer is a tool to assist the board and public in determining how much time they have during public comment per the public comment policy that was unanimously passed on 9/12/2018. Similar requests also came from various public committees and commissioners to help aid in creating a uniform process in hiring comments or concerns during meetings. The timer is used by the clerk of the board, who starts the timer when a person begins to speak. The light will stay green until the countdown reaches 1 minute remaining. At that time, it will switch to yellow, and when time runs out, it will switch to red. So that's kind of the background of why it was proposed to put in. And that was the cost that we incurred under putting it under the AV upgrade. So that's the purpose of that 3 buttons up there.
All right, thank you. Now Sherry, we'll move on to item 14.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
Commissioner Schmidt, I just have a question about that. With regard to that timer thing, it says it was budgeted as an AV upgrade, but we never talked about that, did we? About actually purchasing it and installing it, did we?
Well, I don't know. I was it part of a budget issue? I don't know that, it's not a huge, significant expenditures. But as far as did we debate or did we talk about that? No. I look at it pretty simply as if there are certain things that can make it more efficient for the commission or for the public, maybe that's just something we do. I mean, because if it isn't a huge budget item, but as far as did we ever debate on it, I don't recall, to be very honest with you, I don't.
Well, frankly, every time we have claims reports, we have 2 or 3 pages of claims, all of which we don't talk about in our meetings. So I don't know what the point is you're trying to make, but we're gonna move on to item 14.
Well, I'd like to.
Point of
respond to
order,
that.
Commissioner Aaron's, we're on item 14. You do not have the floor.
So we received funds from the rural access infrastructure. It was $52,328.81. This was to complete an inventory of the small structures within townships. The highway department made the decision that they would do the inventory of the small structures in an effort to save money on and make it all uniformal. As of December 10th, approximately 75% of the townships are completed. The cost to date is $3,260.92. So what I'm requesting is that we do the transfer from Rural Access Infrastructure Fund to the corresponding highway funds to get their money back to them.
Madam Chair, I would so move on that request.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Sean, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Go ahead and move on to item 15 on our agenda. Was Franny gonna handle that, or?
No, it's
Ethan. Okay. She
put the wrong name on
Oh, come on up, Ethan.
Good morning.
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 So I was given this morning. This is the first time I was aware of this situation, actually, so you'll have to just bear with me here. But there was an application for an abatement of a property where there were some buildings removed. And so I believe you guys should have that abatement application. Our part of this abatement, or a part of the assessment portion of this, is to, verify that the structures were there or not there. And so we have done our research, and we can tell through some of the satellite imagery, that we've discussed in previous meetings, made good use of that in this situation. But anyway, it did disappear somewhere between 2017 and 2020 because we don't have a flyover every year. So, I guess we are recommending that you guys do abate this property, but it's up to you. The law reads that you may abate it or you may not. It is up to the property owner to inform us when a building is constructed or removed. And we weren't notified about this until this fall. But apparently the buildings were removed back in 2019.
Okay.
So,
And you were notified by the landowner?
yes, in fall of 2021.
Okay, all right. We've heard the request to approve the refund. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Well, thank you. Any further discussion? If not, Sean, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. You handling 16 as well? We have approval of a refund of the $770.54.
Yeah, this is from the same property owner.
Okay, same issue?
Same issue,
All right.
same property,
Okay,
just
Move for
2 years.
approval.
So.
thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Sean, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Bill, did we have any requests for executive session today?
Thank you.
All right, I know that we need to go in under SDCL 125-2 sub 1. Do we need any other provision, Bill? Okay, so also SDCL 125-2 sub 3. I need a motion to that effect.
I so move.
Second.
Thank you. Sean, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes.
Motion, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second to come out of executive session. Sean, call the roll.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Aaron's.
Yes. We're now out of executive session, back into regular session. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Second.
Motion and second. Sean, call the roll.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Aaron's.
Yes. Thank you. We're adjourned.